Yeah, folks, finally we are approaching our very last topic for this year's KDD2 lecture. We'll talk about spatial temporal data this week, and that will be the last couple of podcasts. Sorry. We won't have any podcast next week. I hope you can recover from the mock-up exam this week. Try to attend that. Try to practice the new format of this online exam, the remaining of the semester will be then time to learn and prepare for the final exam in August, which we hope will be unfallfrei then. So this week spatial temporal data, and we will have basically a kind of survey on how to mine spatial temporal data. And basically there are two different classes of mining approaches. One is geometry-based trajectory mining, and one is semantic-based trajectory mining. And we'll see the difference, of course, in the remainder. So spatial temporal data is again, of course, a special case of sequence data, where we have sequences of spatial data, so spatial locations typically, or in other words, trajectories of objects moving in time and space. So we have the time dimension, which is responsible for being a sequence of something, of observations, and the observations are typically spatial observations in terms of two-dimensional coordinates or even three-dimensional coordinates, or we will see also that it may be some kind of special semantics location, so special semantic locations. We'll see that later. Anyway, so talking about spatial data as a special case of time series, where one of the information recorded at each time point is typically the location of an observation of an object, and as I said before, the location need not to be exactly a spatial location in the sense of two-dimensional coordinates or something else, but we will see also different concepts later. But very often, of course, a very important class of applications is where the location is measured in terms of a concrete space, like GPS coordinates or stuff like that. So time series over spatial locations are also called trajectories, as we said before, and very often there are additional information on time slots. For example, the semantic information on the location, such as this location here is museum, this location is an airport, this location is a bus stop, or whatever. We'll see that we will have very different semantic layers, of course, so we can think of very different semantic layers here for this additional information. I just already glanced at somehow. The field of mining spatial temporal data is extremely wide, so this is really a basic and also absolutely incomplete snapshot of the field. We just try to give you a sort of overview of what can be done with spatial data, temporal data, but just be sure that be sure that this is just a glance, just a snapshot of the field. And there is, especially in the last 2-3 years, there's a very, very active research community working on solutions and also on applications for spatial temporal data mining. So this field is very, very dynamic, so just that you know. And anyhow or however, in general, as I said before, there are two major approaches, two major classes to spatial temporal mining, which we'll describe here on the next two slides. So we talked about that. Geometric-based methods, which is the one left, or which is illustrated left here, considers only the geometrical properties of the trajectories. So they are focused basically on location-based similarity. So location-based services and stuff like that, they fall under those geometry-based methods. So typically you have something from the Earth surface or some whatever, you generate raw geographic data, aggregate that, process that data, into a geographic information system and then use this geometric data for spatial data analysis. Yeah, and if you have recorded that over time, then you of course have trajectories, and so you can use these time slots, these trajectories of spatial data in order to mine or to analyze those data. But you're not, so you're only focusing on really on the spatial location data. And that is different in the semantic-based approaches, where patterns are typically computed that are based on the semantics of the data. Yeah, so where are you? Not only what specific coordinate you are at, but also what does the coordinate stands for. Yeah, as we said before, that you can add semantic information like museum or airport or stuff like that. For example, so those could be the touristic information or touristic layer, and you want to add that, you want to enrich your data with those semantics, and then you try to compute patterns based on those semantic layers you add, which may be independent of the specific spatial location. Yeah. So in that case, of course, so here you see on the right hand side that you enrich the whole thing with some application specific semantics. So that is always, of course, application specific. Yeah. In that case, you are more or less application independent, because you only work on the spatial locations, on the spatial data. And here you work not necessarily not on the spatial data, but typically you work on both the spatial and the semantics information of the data. Yeah, and we will have a look on some sample methods from both classes of data mining methods.